Wolff's brutal comments on FIA. One more race, one more FIA controversy. Fans want to know why the Australian Grand Prix finished the way it did. Once more, but for all the wrong reasons, the FIA was able to make itself the centre of attention. Sainz was penalised a mysterious 5-second penalty after the race was red flagged with only 2 circuits remaining, and on top of that, the second restart has caused some confusion in the paddock. Many strong reactions to it were heard after the race, with Toto Wolff being the loudest one. But is he right? Is Formula One becoming an entertaining sport before anything else? While Max Verstappen was successful in winning his first race of his career in Australia, it seems that any time the Dutch driver sets a milestone, like winning 2 championships in a row, it always happens in a hotly debated way. The FIA has managed to put the sport in a position where many spectators would give up on it, despite the race having 3 red lights and 2 standing restarts, with the third one being essentially provisional. Russell and Sainz were the biggest losers in the race after the first restart, since they chose to approach the pit lane when the safety car was in motion and didn't anticipate that the race would be stopped in the first place. The thing that affected Russell the most was that he had to quit the race early because of W14 reliability concerns, which Mercedes might want to pay more attention to in the future, given that Stroll was unable to finish the last race because of a problem with his Mercedes engine. So what happened in the race? On lap 9 of 58, Alex Albon lost control of his Williams FW45 around turn 7, crashing into the wall and rebounding over the curbs. This caused the race to be stopped for the first time. The race was then red flagged after a safety car was initially deployed. The amount of gravel and debris that needed to be cleared provided the FIA with justification for this. The Grand Prix was red flagged twice more, owing to incidents for Kevin Magnussen and then a crash-strewn restart. The race was delayed, but it eventually came to a close behind a safety car, with the results determined by the previous grid, but the cars were too damaged to keep moving down the finish line. As a result of the classification being taken from the order prior to the incidents, Haas has objected to the outcome, with their driver Nico Hülkenberg falling from 4th to 7th. This comes after the FIA faced criticism for using a safety car during the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix last month. This decision was taken as a result of limited video viewpoints that prevented it from knowing Lance Stroll had parked his Aston Martin on an escape lane off the track. After pitting under the safety car to rejoin in 8th place, early race leader Russell was harmed by the Albon red flag, although competitors Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton effectively received free tyre replacements when the race was stopped. Russell questioned the FIA's judgment in his assessment of how the situation was handled. The director of the Grand Prix Drivers Association stated, "The red flag, in my opinion, was completely unnecessary. Despite the track having a fair amount of gravel, there was a distinct racing line. In the past, it has been far worse. It's very reminiscent of Saudi Arabia's choice to deploy the safety car last week when the vehicle was completely off the course. So I don't really know what's going on with some of the decisions at the moment. We're all trying to work together with the FIA to improve things, but it's seemingly a bit of a challenge." McLaren driver Lando Norris hinted that the red flags were more about faking drama to make the race exciting than they were about safety. After placing 6th, he said, "It seems like the entire purpose of red flagging it was to put on a show. Because I'm the one operating the vehicle, I simply feel as though I might have been so unlucky for no apparent reason. Because of fireworks, abrupt swerving and other factors, I easily could have collided with Nico Hülkenberg at the finish line. You just get unlucky and everything might get taken away from you all of a sudden because they try and put on a show," the British driver said. Sainz, as the biggest loser of the whole situation, was also displeased with how the FIA handled the situation. "I'm not going to speak or comment on it until I get to the stewards and they revert this penalty. It is the biggest disgrace I've seen in the sport for many years, and whatever I'm going to say now, I'd rather not say it." Sainz's super license also received 2 penalty points from the FIA as a result of his actions, which only serves to demonstrate that the governing body detests when its own drivers embarrass it in front of the public. Even though the incident was Sainz's fault and the 5-second penalty was assessed when there was essentially no racing, it might sound painful at this stage, but Alonso's flawless race might have been effectively spoiled by it. Alonso did stay in defense of his compatriot by saying, "Stupid rule. How the hell can they put a red flag? If there is a start, we go back to original positions like in Silverstone. Car is okay." However, the most ear-catching statement was said by the Mercedes team principal, Toto Wolff. Toto said he had no issues with the way race control applied the rules, following the hectic conclusion of the Australian Grand Prix. We looked it up, it was in the rulebook. It was a bit confusing, but it was like it's written down, he told media in the Melbourne paddock on Sunday evening. Obviously, these results like this are good for some teams and bad for others, but if you throw a red flag and you have a crash with a lap to go, Wolff claimed he had no concerns about the way the red flags were used, despite George Russell losing out as a result of the opening red flag due to having pitted under the initial safety car as the then race leader. The manager of the Mercedes team noted that he would take pleasure in the entertainment value that such restarts offer, as long as the situation is apparent for everyone. Both red flags, we didn't see them coming, he said. I think restarts are great and a great entertainment factor. We just need to understand going forward when a red flag's being put out and what is the safety car or virtual safety car. I think those incidents, you could have applied either. I think why Formula One is so successful is because it's sport and we follow the rule book. But that gives great entertainment, and I think as long as it's clear how this is being interpreted, I'm fine. Whether you call a VSC or safety car or you red flag it, as long as we understand in terms of us being able to plan a little bit or having the same rules for everyone, then that's okay. Wolff then revealed he'd received a phone call from his wife at home saying how thrilling the race had been as a spectator on an early Sunday morning. The rule change after the race in Abu Dhabi in 2021 and the Australian GP this year is the FIA's insistence that a race shouldn't terminate under a safety car or red flag. In 2021, the final event of the season sparked tectonic upheavals in the manner that the FIA is now governing races. With fair and cooperative one-lap racing, Verstappen won the title in 2021, but oddly enough, that couldn't have been how this race finished today. The FIA attempted to give each driver a fair shot at racing for 2 laps, which would have been the best mini-sprint we've ever seen, but 4 drivers' races were ended, and the Alpine drivers collided after turn 2. Verstappen mentioned this and added that the race was a complete mess, indicating that by attempting to foster more unity, the FIA only increased the level of turmoil for the drivers. Aside from the drivers, Toto Wolff also threw red flags at the administration. The Austrian feels that by doing this, the sport is becoming too much of an entertainer, and we recall that he had a similar attitude when Drive to Survive started to represent various scenarios, as he thought the sport was becoming more and more like the Kardashians. All in all, it's clear that Wolff is an ambassador for the fairness of the sport. That is something the FIA hasn't done very frequently in the first 3 races of the season. Despite the red flags giving Hamilton at least some hope that he could win ahead of Verstappen if he was able to pull ahead with 2 laps to go, it's clear that Wolff is an ambassador for the sport's integrity. This means that the FIA must always prioritize the requirements of its drivers before considering entertainment value. So what do you think about this FIA rules? Will they change them soon enough? Because how they are right now, they only contribute to the controversies each race. Let us know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below.